So I'm Jason. I'm basically the lead dev plus lots of other things at ProWorks. Our company is ProWorks Corporation. We're based in Oregon, a little bit south of Portland. We have been building Umbraco sites since '09. Basically when version 4 was first released is when we kind of came on board. And we've seen a lot of Umbraco implementations. We've built a lot of Umbraco sites for people. We've also inherited some sites, so we've seen what other people do, which can be interesting sometimes. And we've actually been pulled into other IT teams to kind of be advisors for their implementations from time to time. And so, yeah, we get to kind of just see a wide array of things, I guess, that go on. So that's kind of where we're coming from on this topic. And the back office setup does really affect the client perception of the project and just Umbraco in general.
Hi, I'm Alan. I'm a web designer and front-end developer at ProWorks since 2006. And my background is in graphic design, print design. So I've actually learned a lot building websites since I've been here.
And so this is what we're going to talk about. Alan's going to kind of go through some tips and tricks just to maybe make it a little easier for your content editors to manage their content. And then I'm going to go through some packages I would consider must-have packages and maybe a couple that are under the radar that you might want to know about. And then we'll do some Q&A.
All right, so before Jason takes us to package world, we're going to talk a little bit about content editor's experience. Because, well, most of the time at ProWorks, we are spending our time building websites, and it isn't until like a week or two before deploy that we turn in the content editors. And we're usually grumpy content editors because of all of these things that we need to improve on. So this is kind of notes for us, stuff that we would like to do better. So hopefully, as we go through this list, it'll help you as well. But it turns out that it's just the little things that you can do that end up making a great experience for the content editors. So, this is a quote that we actually hear in the office. What the heck is this for? And all we have to do is simply add a description in the property for the doc types. And it's easy to glance over this as you're building because it's really easy to just get it working and get it done. But if you can just add a description, it doesn't have to be too much. Just say, like for an image, instead of nothing there, you could have where it is on the page or the dimensions of it, just a little help. And if you're consistent with these descriptions, then it just ends up being a great experience for the content editor because they have a reliable place to look for all the kids. Doc types inheritance is kind of broken up into 2 points here. First of all, when you have doc types inheriting properties from its parent, just make sure that you're not inheriting properties that don't matter. So like on a page that doesn't use a marquee image at the top, just make sure not to have that in there. You don't want too many unnecessary choices for the content editor. What else was that? Compositions in Umbraco version 7 really help with that. Allow you to take pieces of properties and add them where you need and where you don't. But the other part of inheritance is actually based around, well, when you want to create an item in the content tree that's only there once, like blog or search results, you'll need to check to add that under the home page. So just remember to go back and uncheck that so that when the content editor is creating a new page, they're not getting a bunch of unnecessary choices. It's limiting experience. Use tabs wisely. This person. that's a gauntlet of tabs. But just what I've seen, I don't know if you have before, but I've seen tabs, a tab with all properties in one, content. It's a good idea to break that out into a couple other tabs, that makes sense. But at the same time, not have too many. I've seen like 3 rows of tabs, and it's a little unruly. But find a way to use tabs wisely. It just helps to make the experience much nicer. Pick icons that make sense. Maybe it's us or the sites that we've inherited, or show of hands if you've ever seen this, where your content tree is all the icons are just folders. Everything under it's just folders. Well, it's really simple. Really simple to implement to pick icons that make sense, and it helps you at a glance when you're looking at the content tree to find where to go. Organize the media. This is another one that gets us a lot, but we're not in charge of the media. I mean, it's your client in the end that has the media taken care of. But if you can set them off the right foot, over here on the left side with the happy cat, we can just start them out with fingers, right? And then in the end, hopefully they'll follow that format and have their media well organized, hopefully. But as the content editor is working, when they're selecting media, it's easier to search by folder. So just long lists. All right, use the dictionary. Dictionary items are a great way to take common phrases and put them in a place where they can be changed easily. So, words like, phrases like read more or submit actually is interesting. You can down the road, if marketing wants you to change it to learn more or something, you can do that easily. But submit is an interesting point actually, because a friend of ours, Eric, co-worker of ours, Eric, was working for a European firm, and he was building web forms that were getting sent out to like 6 different European countries. And apparently they had a problem with the word submit on his form. Raise your hand if you are familiar with this at all. They didn't like the word submit because it was like being submissive. Submit to your master, press the button. So we changed it to register because he used dictionary to do that. So we changed it outside that. All right. Rich text editor style sheets toolbar. What I like to do is in the top image there, add styles to the formats drop down so that content editor can easily make headings, block quotes, H1 through H6, everything is available for them to use whenever they like. Just a nice thing for them to have choice. And also, down below, just like bring your fonts, your line heights, and background images, and paragraph spacing. That's all nice to have in the rich text. It doesn't need to look exactly like the front end in this case, but just something that makes it more custom experience. All right, list views are good to use if you want to take your content tree, and if there's a lot of children in some nodes, you can use list views to break it out so your content tree is a lot cleaner. All the child items will just be shown in line here. But what you can do is change the properties shown on there. So like in this case, we added tags to these blog posts and got rid of author, so it's just another way to customize the experience. Gives you flexibility to do other things. All right. A couple more ways to get help before I send this off to Jason. custom dashboard. In this case, we have links out to screencasts that we did, or you can have videos playing inline there, and you can do HTML to just have like
Get rid of the default. Get rid of the default dashboard. Doesn't need to have the Rocket stuff.
Right,
Put
right.
your own
How
things.
many of us still have just the default
Some
dashboard?
do, yeah.
It's hard to find time to do the extra touches like this, but if you do it, it's really nice. And this bookshelf is a package, right?
Everybody heard of Bookshelf? Yeah, so it's super cool, right? And I think that maybe some people find it through because it has a lot of help stuff in it, like how to set up your site. But you can download just the editor's manual, and then they'll have basically the editor's manual in a nice help sort of format inside their install. But it's just Markdown, so you can create your own books. So you can create a manual for your site that you just set up for them and install it.
Tutorials.
It's super good way to do documentation for your clients.
All right, inline help, I'm gonna just.
Oh yeah, inline help. Yeah, so that's a little package I made a year ago or so, and it basically just it's like a label property editor that you can in the pre-values you can add your own HTML. So you could have inline help like maybe size, image size recommendations, or maybe just a small amount of help, and then it actually has the ability to use the dialogue to have sort of a initial help, and then it has a button you can label, and then you can fly out like more detailed help into the side so you can get a little more in depth, so it's not just this massive. But anyways, it's just another way to do, essentially give your content editors some hints at what they're supposed to do, or if they need it, if something that's maybe a little more complex.
Sometimes it's nice to have it inline, you know, they don't have to go somewhere else and they
Right.
just hit that button and they're right there relative to where they go.
Yeah. We've had to do this a little bit sometimes with the grid, because the grid, when you sort of see a blank, when you fire up a new page, right, and the grid will be blank, it's nice to have maybe a little hint just to get them going or something. But not everybody needs that necessarily. Cool, next on. Yeah. All right, so some packages. So there are a ton of packages. Just by preparing this talk, I went back through and started looking through our Umbraco, and I went through like the first 10 pages, and I literally made a list of like 40 things that I want to try that I'm like, holy crap, I didn't even know this existed. I want to try this one. And so I haven't actually tried them all, unfortunately for you guys, but there's a lot of cool stuff, and it's hard to know what is good. Is this tested? Is somebody just throw this up there? So one way you could do it is like me, you just lazy web it. And so a couple weeks ago I threw out this tweet, hey, what do you guys use when you're starting a project? I mean, I know what we use, but everybody kind of has their own way of doing things. So that's kind of what I'm basing on some of my deep dive packages that I'm using here. Got a pretty decent response. And so these were the top 3 things that the 20 people or so that actually responded said. So nested content, the trace log viewer, and new pickers are kind of their must-haves. There's a bunch of others though. It's the list of people who mentioned one-offs. I mean, I had like a list of 30 things, right, that somebody thinks is a must-have. So I'm going to kind of group these into different types. So property editors first. So nested content. Everybody heard of nested content? Use it? Okay, good. About probably 30% or so. This is awesome. Package. So traditionally with Umbraco, you might, let's say you have a frequently asked questions section, right? So you've got your frequently asked questions page, and you might set it up where underneath that you'd have several nodes, basically pages, right, that are like the questions, right? And then the frequently asked questions page, you just roll them up, and it's a nice way. It's an okay, and maybe it's a list view, right? So you have all the questions in the list view. Those are pages, though, in Umbraco, so they come with all the things that pages come with. So if somebody tries to link to them, say a content editor, then it's going to 404 because it's not a real page. It doesn't have a template. It's just like a piece of content under it. And it's not really getting shared anywhere, so it's really just for this high-level roll-up page. So what nested content allows you to do is you could take that sort of small question-answer doc type and turn it into a list of complex data on say the fact list page, right? So here, in this example, I'm just doing authors. This is just using the Finode starter kit. I just said, okay, well, we want some authors. Let's say we have an author with the name and the thumbnail. And so it actually has a really nice interface. You can add more, you can move them around, get rid of them, and it's really cool because it feels like Embraco, right? You're using doc types as the definition, and it's got a really nice interface. And the even cooler part is that it actually just comes out as iPublish content when you're using it in your views and your partial views. So it literally just feels like Embraco. Like it probably, I don't know if it'll ever be core, but it feels like it should be core to me. It's really cool. And so Archetype is another good option for this sort of thing as well. So we've used both. Historically, we've used Archetype. We kind of like this a little better now, just partially because it really feels Embraco-y and just natural. New pickers, raise your hand if you use new pickers. Okay, this one's awesome. This is one you gotta at least try, okay? So new pickers, it is a set of sort of property editor interface elements, so checkbox, drop downs, radio buttons, type ahead sort of autocomplete things, these sort of drag and drop interface things. And so it has a set of those, and then it has a set of essentially like data source adapter options, right? So you can pull from SQL, XML, JSON, examine your own custom .NET class, .NET enums. So you could do something as simple as dropping an XML file in a GitHub repo that it references, and it's say a list of states or something that you serve or whatever, and then you can hook it up to this, and then your editors can have a nice drop down of the states to pick. It's super easy to do examine as well. You basically put in your query, and then it gives you a list of, like for instance here, these are the blog posts. So these might be all over your site, right? And so to pick them, you might have to go to several parts of your site to pick them. Well, just make an examine query, and then it'll only pick the blog posts, and you pick them. But the really cool part, which is kind of demoing here, is you can create just a custom macro with like a partial view, and you can change the rendering so that instead of just having the title, you could add more content. So here we create a little rendering that adds the tags for the blog posts to give me more context. Or you could add some colors to the color picker, so your content editors have a little bit more hint at what they're really, what does Aqua really look like, right? That's the theme I'm picking. It also has some really neat stuff if you do integrations. So this actually is a package that's a new Pickers Flickr picker. So that best. So it goes out to the Flickr API, and you can search Flickr for bikes and then pick those. Or there's other, I think there's one for Vimeo as well. And we're actually using this for some integration things. So picking things from other services like a document management system or Elasticsearch or something else where you can basically just write a .NET class pointed at it, and it serves as the data source. So it's really flexible, really cool, and you could do all this like kind of custom rendering stuff to even make it cooler for your clients so they can see a picture of it, instead of just being like text, like the normal sort of pictures that are in the box. So other property editors that are, so like I said, there's a ton of stuff. These are some other good ones to try as well that we would recommend, or also people mentioned in the poll. I guess one of the ones I just highlighted here at the bottom is Vorto. It's a pretty cool one that I think is a bit under the radar, especially in the States because we don't get a lot of multilingual, but if you are doing multilingual sites, definitely check it out because it allows you to do basically multilingual on a property level, right? So an individual property. So if you're just, for a document type, most of the stuff, maybe the image isn't going to change. There's no text on it. And some other properties, then you only need to make maybe a specific, like the body text or something, to be multilingual. And so that they can, anyways, or if you have generic data maybe outside of multiple site sort of multilingual setup, you could have your generic data have Vorto on it, and you would have to include them in the sites. Okay, so I'm going to move on to packages to help you. So this is the developer side, I guess, or implementer side, perhaps. So the one that was mentioned, Dipload Tracelog Viewer. So there's a couple other packages that do this, but basically it's just a nice way to expose the Embraco logs in the back office so you can see them without having to log into the server. Many times you don't necessarily have easy access to the server. You got a VPN or you do all these crazy things. Basically, you can get access to the error logs, and it has some cool little features like you could search for the error on Hour or Google or whatever, just to kind of make things easier. And really, even just looking at the text logs is kind of, it's like sometimes it can be pretty difficult to look at. So it just kind of cleans it up, gives a nice interface. And it's basically a must-have. If you don't install this one, fine. There's a couple other ones. I think there's a content management dashboard one. But definitely, I don't know, we like to do this because it just saves time, basically. Some other ones that were mentioned or we like as well. So highlighted there, core value converters. Everybody, you guys know about core value converters, that package? Basically adds like type converters for when you're building your views and things so that it gets it into, say, a list of iPublish content, or a lot of packages will have their own type converters too, but definitely check it out. It's kind of a must-have, really, for like the first thing you install after you set up Embraco for building, for us anyways, because it just makes things much easier from a coding perspective. Yeah. And I'd say probably like the top 3 or 4 there are probably pretty common for us. The other ones are really more specific, maybe to specific implementations, but definitely is. So then the grid. So this one, I'm going to focus on one that wasn't mentioned, and it's probably maybe more under the radar, or maybe one that, I don't know. So I'm not sure how well it's supported, but we really liked it when we used it for our grid implementation. So the Painter was made by the guys who made the grid originally, and then kind of handed it off to Embraco. And essentially what it does, graffiti is a really good metaphor, because essentially what it does is it skins the back office grid with some of the settings and things that would be on the front end, right? So you have a background image or a background color or some things like that. And when we used it on a project recently, and it really helped connect the back end editing experience for the content editor. We've had a little bit of trouble with the grid, with the and the grid has gotten a lot better. I really like some of the changes they've done recently with 7.4 and things. But it can be difficult when you have a white, it's kind of like the rich text editor thing, when you just have a white bunch of boxes, and then you have a very styled front end, right? And what am I looking at here? Which box goes here? I've got to kind of switch back and forth. But if you can get just a little hint at, okay, oh, this is the box with the purple background, or this is the box with the big image of the map or whatever. And so essentially it kind of turns, so this is sort of by default, right? So this is just the Fano. So all these things are you can see there's settings applied, and basically the settings are, hey, there's a background image, hey, there's a background image here, things like that. This has a slanting thing going on. And so it just turns, it's a hint, right? It's not meant to be WYSIWYG or hey, this looks exactly like the front end, right? But it kind of gives content editors basically a hint at what is this grid element, I guess, and tries to be a little close to what maybe it might look like. And it really kind of helped connect things. So the only caveat I would say with this is that it worked really well with 7.2.8, up to 7.2.8. It hasn't been updated since then, and the grid has been kind of redone. And so I went through and made it work with 7.4.1, so that's kind of what you're seeing here. And I could demo this at the end if we need to, or for somebody, but basically, yeah. So I will be blogging about, and hopefully I can convince them to update it so that it does work with 7.4 as well. But so I'll have to you'll have to go to the ProWorks blog in a week or so, and I'll have something out there that kind of at least describes how to make it work with 7.4.1. But anyways, this is one that was I really liked, and I was disappointed when it didn't work with 7.4.1. So I kind of wanted to make it work. Some more grid packages. So there's not a ton of things for grid right now, but Blender is a must-have. It adds another tree item that basically shows you all the grid renderers that you have. It provides a really easy way to create custom grid editors that you can have with different pickers and things, kind of like how you would do with nested content. The DocType grid editor is also, it's essentially nested content for the grid. And then the grid locker and some of these they're kind of neat little things that you probably wouldn't use on everything, but they're good to know about. But Blender is kind of a must-have for us. So with packages, there's a ton of things out there, and some of this stuff I know the guys who have been doing Umbraco for a long time, they'll be like, we all know this stuff. This is easy. But since we'll inherit projects, and I swear that they've never been to our Umbraco before. They literally they don't use any packages, and there's they'll build things that exist on our, and it's not as good. It's like, so I guess I would say is kind of like the keynote, right? Like know what's out there, at least at a basic sense of, try to monitor the package repository if you can. There's an RSS feed you can get of the packages, so you can get a notice every time somebody puts a new one up there. And don't reinvent the wheel, basically, right? So yes, you may have to make something completely custom, and that's totally cool. But if it seems like it should be there, something should already be made, it's probably already made, But don't be afraid to ask either, right? The community is really cool, so so some of the places you can ask, obviously the forums are Umbraco.org. Twitter is a very, very good place to go. Just hash Umbraco. Very active community on Twitter. And there's a new Slack community as well you might want to check out. This is, you basically just go to that URL, which I'm assuming these slides, we'll put these on our blog, the ProWorks blog, but you basically sign up there, and it's pretty active. I'm impressed. It's a really good place to ask about packages or techniques. Like, hey, has anybody deployed with this tool, this deployment tool, or what do you guys use for this, right? And people are answering. Also similar to Twitter, but you can see the history a little easier of what people have asked in the past, which is kind of cool. And then just stay up to date, right, as best as you can. I know it's really difficult. There's a lot of packages and a lot of information. Maybe an under the radar one that people don't know about is the Hangouts. It's essentially a video podcast where Warren Buckley over in the UK interviews people about their setups, their Umbraco setups, the packages that have come out, and he'll do essentially live demos. It's pretty long form, so it's a bit of a commitment. It might be an hour, but you can skip through it. And it comes out every Friday, and it's really good. Like, this is where I've learned about a lot of the packages we use. And then, conference and festival videos are another place that's kind of under the radar. I think there's a ton of good stuff from past Code Gardens and past UK festivals and past uWestFests that, it's at least scan it, something's there, right? So, yeah. All right. That's all we had on the package and stuff. Anybody have any questions about, it's kind of zooming through there. Anybody have any questions on packages or anything specific?
You guys ran into a lot of issues with upgrading a lot of packages?
Generally, no, but that is one of the gates, I guess, that when we're kind of reviewing packages is how well does it seem to be maintained.
What's your review process?
Yeah, so, that's another place where I would ask the community, probably, right? So if there's 2 or 3 packages that sort of seem to do the same thing, which is actually fairly common, then I just kind of ask people I know that are, either on Twitter or say, hey, do you guys use this package or this package for unversioning or for, something with the content, managing content in a certain way or something, right? And then I'll just go off recommendations there. It would be nice if our had some sort of review system or something, I think, but there is the forums, and so that's another place to look. Forum, or you look at their GitHub repository. If they seem to be answering, and that's my gate, right? Are they answering issues? Are they pushing fixes regularly? If it hasn't been committed to in a year, that's not a good sign for me. Normal stuff, right? So.
Yeah, that's usually my gripe is that you found a great package, it came out for version 4 or 4.5, and then that's it. They stop development on it, and they never support or upgrade it.
Right. So you guys have seen though on the R and Rocco, there's now the little voting system they have on which versions it works with. That's a good simple gate, right? Is it continually working? Are people actually letting our know if it's continually working? If it's sort of all blank, then maybe that nobody's using it, so nobody knows, right? So that could be a little sketchy. But I guess I would also recommend, give back to, if you are using a package and it does work with the version you're working with, go check that little box, because it is actually helpful to the rest of us to know that it works on 7.3 or 7.4 or 6.16 or whatever you're using. So, yeah, Mark.
I guess one thing that is also good to think about is if it's a property editor that's doing a lot of really crazy stuff in the back office UI, that's something you have to think about, because those are the sorts of things that that are hard to make, that are hard to switch from or upgrade. Things like pickers that just pick an ID. Like the worst case scenario is you just switch to a different picker that also picks by ID. And so you can kind of, if that package stops working, you can move on. But it's the big, like if you were using some type of other type of grid package, that's the sort of thing that it's stored some sort of custom JSON. And you need to think about how are we going to upgrade this later.
Jason, can you put your slide back up about the dev packages? Start with, apps.
Is there one specific one or grid stuff? Not grid stuff.
Never mind.
Trying to ask about a specific one, what it does.
No.
Oh, okay.
Check into that.
Tack monkey.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's so the tacking. Yeah, the grid locker is kind of interesting, and I actually have to check if it works on 7.4.1 since with the grid changes. So that's the kind of thing, right? So when you note that Rocco has changed a feature a lot, so they just recently went through some usability changes of the grid. And so if there's a grid package that worked in 7.2, it may not work in 7.4 now, right? So you kind of figure that out just through experience, unfortunately. But usually if the packages are maintained well, they'll keep up. So. Yeah.
I think one thing we should say though is a lot of these stuff that you're showing, people tend to have the GitHub links on there. So as a community, really, sort of what we should be doing is helping these guys out, especially the people that do a lot of packages like Lee, Matt, and everyone else that does it. People like Kevin that does the archetype there, and these guys have got a job as well.
Yeah.
That if something doesn't work or it's kind of got a bit of a glitch, I think people tend to just go, it don't work, sort it out. It's like, well, actually, it's open source. You guys can get involved. You're all developers. It's quite easy to grab it, help the community out. If there's something that's missing that you want to put into it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I actually meant to mention that. Yeah, so that's kind of part of this. I meant to mention that with the don't reinvent the wheel. It's that, if you find a package and it has a GitHub repo and it's like does 90% of what you do, consider okay, well, this is a thing that could give back to that package. Like this might be good for everyone else, right? So rather than building a new one completely, maybe think about helping it if it has a GitHub repo. That is another gate for me. If it's on GitHub, Bitbucket, something like that, I'm more likely to give it a shot if I don't know the dev. Some of these packages I use because I know that Lee did it or Matt Braille Westford, or there's some names you'll see, right, that have done tons of packages, you know, they're gonna be solid. If it's somebody I don't know, I might vet that person a little bit, or, you know, do a little more research just to know, like, where's this, you know, is this gonna be something that they're gonna continue to, are they invested in Umbraco, right, that sort of thing. But the worst case, if it has a GitHub repo, I can always fix it myself, or just fork it, and, you know, it may be dead, but we have a new fork, and the community can use that fork instead. Yeah.
Another thing I just want to mention from first-hand experience, and Neil's talking a little bit about this morning with the Umbraco as a service, is any sort of out-of-the-box package that uses any kind of picker, media picker, content picker. Those things don't translate automatically when it's a custom plugin. And some of them are catching on, like Archetype, I think now has a data resolver built in, but if you're doing something custom and they haven't put a data resolver in, that's very important, because you're going to wonder, like, oh, how come that
For
not
Umbraco
there?
as a service, right?
Yeah. When you're
Yeah.
looking into that, that's a pretty important.
Yeah, there is a new little thing now that says it works on Umbraco as, wow. That's 3 months out. Anyways. All right, so yeah, so they have a thing now that does say works on Umbraco as a service, though, which is, I assume, correct. I don't know if it's core team that's actually checking that box or certifying it, but yeah, so that's something. Yeah, if you're doing Umbraco as a service, you have to watch that. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention is that if there was a package for an old version of Umbraco, if it was a good package, it's likely that there's at least some sort of new analogous version of that package on new versions of Umbraco. So like there was uComponents, which was a great Umbraco 6 package, and now there's new pickers, which translates like the picker aspects of it, but then there used to be the grid. Now that might be the grid in Umbraco, or Archetype, or nested content, or any of those different options. So just because that package hasn't been upgraded doesn't mean there's no options.
True.
And then what I found is that if it's the old version is an open source package, which it's most often is an open source package, you can basically create like a read-only temporary version of it and then migrate the data over to the new property editor. So that's just an approach one might consider.
Yep, that's great. Anybody else? I don't know quite what time I think about that.
Yeah, we have about 5 more minutes.